Hey, what's up? I'm Darkbblue, trying to help you enjoy games in depth. Following my previous build making guide for Path of Exile 2, you can easily beat the campaign in a solo self-found fashion. In this video, I'll show you how to progress from T1 all the way to T15. Theoretically, you can do this in a semi-SSF way. Only currency in exchange, buying cheap jewels and buying cheap unique gears are allowed. Of course, you can still buy other gears to accelerate this process, but this semi-solo self-found way also has its advantage. You can find the weaknesses of your build early and make changes. Always remember that in PoE 2, a build consists of skills, passives, and gears. To progress T1 to T15, we also need to consider the three aspects. For skills, in fact, you can unlock the access to all the skills as early as in Act 4, so it's safe to say that you have already decided how your skills should synergize with each other. Now the space for improvement lies in Skill Gem tier and Support Socket. Skill Gem tier is a reliable way for improvement. Once you reach T15, you will be finding a lot of level 18 gems, relatively rare level 19 gems, and a few if any level 20 gems. Whenever you find a higher level gem, use it to upgrade your equipped skills. One thing to mention here is that for most damage skills, every level upgradation grants the same percentage of damage gain compared to the previous level, so there's no such a thing as diminishing returns for additive bonuses. Therefore, gem level is really important and rewarding. Support sockets are increased using Jeweler's Orbs. The orbs for 3 sockets are very common. The orbs for 4 sockets are relatively rare, but you can still find some. Use them wisely. The orbs for 5 sockets are very rare, though not as rare as level 20 gems. You will find them eventually, but don't rely too much on this during T1 to T15 progression. Of course, you can also use the currency exchange function of Eng to buy a few high-level gems or Jeweler's Orbs, given you have enough exalts. Next, let's talk about passives. On one hand, we need to wisely allocate our passive points, and on the other, we need to level up fast to get more passive points. At the same time, it's also common to do the 3rd and 4th ascendancy trials during this period. First, on passive allocation. During T1 to T15 progression, you want to allocate more points on defense rather than offense. This is because in Atlas, you start to get penalty from dying, each time losing 10% experience progression. So it's okay if you are not so fast, but try not to die too much. Then on leveling, we've been talking about T1 to T15. This means the tiers of Waystones. Every tier corresponds to a certain monster level, T1 for 65 and T15 for 79. Additionally, irradiated effects from an irradiation tablet or Doriani's master node can further increase the monster level by 1. Try to progress your Waystone tiers so that the monsters are not outleveled by you too much, so that you can get more experience. Here's some additional knowledge. There are T16 maps, but they can't be directly dropped but only corrupted using a Vow Orb from T15 Waystones. You can also periodically find +1 monster level effects in corruption and cleansed areas. If you combine them both, you will get level 82 monsters. Of course, Waystone, sustain, and upgradation is a problem. Let's address system first. In patch 0.5, if you haven't invested into the Atlas passive tree a lot, the Waystone drop rate is very low. You can't really expect any drop from regular monsters, and even bosses may refuse to give you any Waystones. If you want to solve this from the root, you should prioritize the Atlas passive nodes that give you increased Waystone drop chance and map boss drop quantity. And you can try to add more affix to your map as long as you can handle the difficulty. to increase wisdom drop chance. And if you already run out of maps, you can buy some from Doriani. He sells maps that are one tier lower than the highest maps you have completed. You can buy 3 of them and use the reforging bench to upgrade them. With the stun stat, let's move to wisdom upgradation. Commonly, you will drop wisdoms of the same tier as what you are running. But if you kill a powerful map boss, it will drop a higher tier wisdom, which is an important source of upgradation. You can find these icons on your atlas, indicating a powerful map boss. You can also use Overseer tablet to enforce a powerful map boss. Besides this, you can also use the reforging bench to upgrade your maps. Given you have enough maps to do this, you may also try to first reforge your maps into a higher tier one and use it on a powerful map boss. Following the guide above, you can reach T15 and level 80 fast. At the same time, you need to complete the 3rd and the 4th Ascendancy trials. The 3rd trial requires you to do a 3-floor Sigma's trial or a 10-floor Chaos trial, where the common practice is to run the former. You are advised to run the 3rd trial between T1 and T15. Notice that you can get a level 60 Sigma's entrance ticket from the Serpent Captain in Interlude. This is the 3-floor trial of the lowest possible level, which means it's the easiest one you can find. Do try your best to exploit this single chance. So you want to prepare a lot of good relics, capping your honor resistance at 75% and further stacking a bit maximum honor, maximum life, and defense if you can manage. To make the preparation, you can buy relics from other players or run your other Sigma's tickets first. The 4th trial requires a 4-floor Sigma's trial or the hidden chamber of the Chaos trial, where the former is usually preferred. It's common to run this shortly after you reach T15, like at level 83. The 4th trial's ticket is cheap. You can buy a level 77 to 79 one if you don't succeed at the first try. With passive stat, let's come to the final angle, gears. First, let's learn the concept, gear breakpoints. Generally speaking, the higher level maps you run, the better gears you can drop. But to further clarify this feeling, we need to distinguish item level from requirement level. So see this gear panel. The requirement level is related to the base type. For example, Desolate Crossbow always requires level 77. However, the item level can be higher than the requirement level. The 2 levels affect different aspects of a gear. Requirement level determines the item base type, and the item level determines the tier of affix you can roll on the gear. Here we care more about requirement levels and base types. This is because a higher level base usually has higher base damage or defense values, so you want to gradually replace your gears with higher requirement level ones. Here, another problem is that the requirement levels are sparse, not dense. For example, the previous base might be level 67 and the next base may not be found until you reach level 72 maps. This means you have to manage to reach level 72 with a level 67 weapon, before which it's simply impossible to get better gears. But at the same time, this also means once you reach level 72 maps, you can farm a bit at this level to upgrade your weapons. This is how gear breakpoints work. Next, I will go through all the breakpoints of different gears. Weapons. Different weapon types, for example crossbows and spears, are different, but generally you will find at least 2 bases at around level 67 and level 72. Once you reach level 76, you will find more than 1 base that is considered the true endgame base, indicated by the fact that although they may have different requirement levels, they usually have the same requirement attributes. These endgame bases may emphasize on different aspects, judging from their implicit effects, base damage value, attack speed, and crit chance. Helmet, gloves, and boots. Their breakpoints are always level 65, 70, 75, and 80. A higher level one always has higher defense value. But you need to notice two additional things. First, gloves are usually for offense than defense, so as long as you have a very good offense glove, it's common that you don't need to upgrade it for a long time. And second, the runic upgradation function introduced in patch 0.5 makes these bases behave differently. Usually, the level 70 and 80 bases will sacrifice huge defense for huge runic ward, while level 65 and 75 bases only sacrifice a bait defense for a bait runic ward. Body armor is rather special. It also has level 65, 70, 75, and 80 bases. However, they are all endgame bases, emphasizing different aspects. Usually, one base of the four has relatively high base defense value and no implicit effects. When runically upgraded, it will sacrifice a lot of defense to gain a lot of runic ward. The other three bases have the same defense value that is slightly lower than the first one, but come with some handy implicit effects. Furthermore, they only sacrifice a bait defense for a bait runic ward. This means that body armor as the most important defense slot is easier to get than the other slots. Additionally, you have two ways to get new gears. Besides raw drops in the maps, you can also buy from the gambling merchant. You may be accustomed to buying from the regular merchants, but their stock caps at level 65 in endgame, so they are mostly useless. Raw drops from maps are at the same level as the monster level, and to know the level of the gambling merchant, just buy one and press Alt to see the item level. In this way, you can better exploit the gear breakpoints. With all the three aspects of a build set, we need to also talk about the Atlas Questline, newly introduced in patch 0.5. In this patch, your Atlas passive consists of core passives, mechanic passives, and Atlas masters. To get more core passive points, you need to do the maps in the Precursor Fortress. Once you have defeated the Arbiter of Divinity for the first time, you can leave the fortress and venture outward. Look for such orange beams. They indicate additional Patriarch and Matriarch halls, allowing you to fight the Arbiter again and again. Each time you defeat him, you can activate one of the devices to auto-complete a lot of maps in the fortress. This is an efficient way to grab core passive points. As for mechanics, there are 6: Breach, Abyss, Delirium, Retro, Temple, and Expedition. In patch 0.5, Expedition might be a bit special since it's the theme of this league. For the other mechanics, you can find a base camp area in the Atlas. Completing maps around the base camp as well as defeating the corresponding pinnacle boss will grant you mechanic passive points. Then there are 3 Atlas Masters, each with 4 points to be unlocked. Hilda's camp is near the initial ziggurat encampment. She will assign you target maps to complete. Jado's first mission is an anomaly map near the Precursor Fortress. Completing the map will make him assign 3 more anomaly maps. Doriani's quest is a bit different, in that he won't assign to you a specific map to complete. You need to explore the Atlas and find corruption areas. After completing 3 corruption nexus maps, the final point is a bit different. A map with Emerged Fury will spawn in a cleansed area. This is a special boss that spawns outside of the map boss room, and it won't be marked on the minimap. So make sure you find and defeat it before entering the map boss arena. In general, my advice is to choose one mechanic you are interested in and one master you feel is good. Go get the core passive points, mechanic points, and master points in parallel. This makes this process less tedious. In summary, I hope this video can help you progress from T1 to T15 more smoothly. Thus reaching T15 is not the end, but the beginning of a new journey. What should you do after T15 to become even stronger? That's the topic of my next video. If you want to play games into depth together with me, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, see you around.